Deployment is simply copying your tested setup from your practice environment into your real business environment safely and intentionally. If you're serious about a clean CRM architecture, never build directly in production, always build in Sandbox, test thoroughly, and then deploy with confidence. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the setup deploy element, which is a new element in HubSpot. This setup deploy element is an element that helps us to migrate changes from the sandbox environment to the production environment through the UI or the HubSpot CLI for developers who are deploying a project or an app. Let's get started. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This channel is a CRM solution based channel. I build requirements, I build a practical requirements, and it's a step-by-step process of learning CRMs like Salesforce and HubSpot, but not limited to these two. I can do Zoho if I have a change of mind. I can do Freshdesk, I can do Zendesk, but for now we are going with HubSpot and Salesforce majorly. I've noticed that in Nigeria there are so many CRM beginners and are finding it difficult to navigate the CRM tool. But this channel is created simply to push out solutions and requirement solutions or project-based solutions for CRM beginners in Nigeria and in Africa. Salesforce is not widely known here, and I am using this channel to push out Salesforce not just as a CRM tool, but as a means of earning money and making and building a beautiful career, especially for women who wants to be remote workers, who have their family and children to take care of and want to work from the comfort of their home. And also for young girls who just finished university and are looking for skills or tech careers to dive into, Salesforce CRM is the go-to. CRMs is just simply a customer relationship management tools. So we have so many CRMs like Salesforce, we have HubSpot, we have that. Let's not just go into so many things, but for today, I want to show a practical real life scenario of how to deploy components from a sandbox environment to a production environment in HubSpot. So what is a sandbox? Think of a sandbox as your practice kitchen and production as your real restaurant. You don't test new recipes in front of customers, you test in the kitchen. Then sandbox is just a testing environment, while production is your live business environment. A sandbox is a safe environment where you test workflows, test custom properties, build automations, test integrations, and try new changes without affecting your live customers. Imagine changing a workflow that automatically sends email to customers. If you make mistake in production, thousands of customers could receive the wrong emails. That's why CRMs and for this video, HubSpot created a sandbox environment. A sandbox is simply a copy of your HubSpot portal used for testing changes safely. So the idea is sandbox for testing your work and then production for your live business. Now let's talk about deployment. Deployment simply means moving configurations built in your sandbox into your production. Not data, not contacts, not deals, just properties, workflows, pipelines, forms, lists, custom objects, themes, codes if CMS, and a whole lot into your production environment. So the setup deploy component helps us to move data, not data, helps us to move custom properties, helps us to migrate workflows, help us to migrate codes, help us to migrate lists, help us to migrate custom objects, help us to migrate themes into our production environment. And this is after you have been customized whatever you want to customize based on the requirement that have been given to you. Let's dive into the practical example where I'm going to be creating where I'm going to be deploying a component or a workflow. But for this video, I'm going to be deploying a workflow into my production environment from a sandbox environment. Mind you, in this video, we are allowed to make mistakes, we are allowed to see red errors, but at the end of the day, we are allowed, or we should be able to resolve these errors, which is why a CRM admin is needed for every organization that uses CRM. You can't just build and be allowing your errors to build up in your org. You need an admin, a system admin, to manage your platform so that you will work effectively and efficiently. When you log into your HubSpot environment, first thing you're going to do is to go to your back end, which is your setup, and then you are going to go to your sandbox from the account management option and click on set up a deploy. Now, when you have clicked on the setup a deploy, it brings out this interface where you select your sandbox source. For some people, they do have multiple sandbox, so you are allowed to select the particular sandbox which you have built this requirements that you want to migrate in. Now, there are supported asset types. We have the forms, we have the marketing emails, we have the objects, we have the link segment, which is list, we have the workflows. So what do? If you have created a form in your sandbox and you have tested it both positively and negatively and it's time to migrate, you can select your form from the asset type, or marketing emails that you have created with your content files. You have to select your marketing email. Is it a custom object that you have created? You have to select a custom object, or a segment, or a list, or a workflow. Whatever your components are, you have to select it in this interface, which is the first thing that you are supposed to do. So let's select the workflow. For now, I'm going to be using a workflow that is pre-built by HubSpot because I do not want to waste time while updating this. Now, as I've clicked on the workflow option, it brought out the few workflows that are in this sandbox, and I will select next. Now we have come to connected assets. This is the interface that shows you if the components you are trying to deploy have new components but do not exist in your production environment. Remember, the sandbox is attached to your production, or was created, or is a copy of your production, so the sandbox should be able to read the environment and know what exists in both environments. Now, a connected asset might be a field that you have created while you are building your project, and this connected asset is requiring you to migrate the field or create a replica of the field in your production. So for this particular interface, is searching to see if there is any connected assets, but because this is a standard workflow by HubSpot, we do not have any connected assets, so we are good to go in this particular phase. Now, the next phase is to check if there are conflicts. So when you click on next, you are going to move over to the conflicts interface, where we are going to check if there are existing conflicts. What does this existing conflict mean? Existing conflict means that there are components attached to whatever flow that we are migrating but does not exist in your production, or there are mistakes in what we have built, but whatever the conflict is going to show up here. Assuming I have built a custom flow, I've used a custom flow, I'm going to be seeing the conflicts, if there are any, on this particular option. You can see how linearly the line is going, so we are going to get to the end very soon. Now, after checking for conflicts, we move to this next option of giving your component that you're deploying a name, which is the name that you're going to use to search your metadata when this component gets deployed. In future, for future references, whatever the case may be, you need to prioritize naming convention. I've always talked about naming convention because when you want to do a handover or you are looking for something in the future, the naming convention that you have put in your documentation is going to help you to understand why you did this at a particular time and why it is behaving as such at a particular time. Documentation is always key in CRM. If you're an admin and you're not documenting, you're making a big mistake. You know why? Because You might experience or get to build similar projects, and you don't have to start racking your head up and about because you have built this project prior to this time. So you just go to your documentation log and find the exact things you did, and then do minor adjustments and changes based on the best practices at the time or the latest release at that time. Let's go on. So we are going to give our deployment elements, our component, a name, which is flow, and then for the description we are just going to call it flow. Now it brings us to this interface where we should review what we have done. At this particular time, you are seeing that the sandbox is pointing to the direction of the product. At this particular time, we can see that the sandbox is pointing towards the production, and we can actually go back to review what we have done. I always go back. I do not make mistake of not reviewing my changes. I go ahead to check my Jira or my project management tool or Trello or Asana, whatever the changes or the recent changes have been. I make sure that my deployment that the components I want to deploy is exactly what has been put out on my project management tool. Doesn't mean the acceptance criteria. This is where you have to do your final review and changes before you migrate to production, because it says deploys cannot be cancelled or undone. Assets should be tested thoroughly in the standard sandbox before deploying to production. What does it tell you? This is a warning. It means that this is a very critical time for you to review. Once you push this, it cannot be undone. You might start sending out things, you might start messing up things in the live production, and this is one mistake that you shouldn't make as an admin. I'm going to explain why this is critical in my next video. It's a very critical and a very sensitive point in your deployment. You need to go back. I do not go back because I don't know what I have done or built or customized, but I go back just for a second confirmation, and also ask questions, maybe to ask stakeholders questions just to reconfirm that what I've built is working according to the way they want it. I will make sure that I've done my positive testing, which is my project or my requirement working the way it should work, and then do my negative testing, which means what if it is not working the way it should work? What will happen? How does it behave? What will it start doing in the environment? When you are finished reviewing, you can go ahead to click on deploy to production, and when this has been clicked on, it takes us directly into our production environment, and we can see the status is deploying. Please do not refresh your page. Please make sure you have a very good internet access at this particular point, because it can be breaking down things when your internet are fluctuating. Allow this to be seamless, and you will see your components or your deployments move safely. Now, one deployed asset. So we review the asset that we have deployed, and then it shows us the flow that we have migrated from the production sandbox to the production. Let's review this flow. When we come into this place, it says the workflow can be edited, because this is an automatic flow created by HubSpot. So what do? Because of the name of this flow, I know that it's definitely coming from the privacy settings, because HubSpot automatically creates some workflows for us, and what is left for us as admin is either to turn it on based on our requirement, or to turn it off, or to adjust it based on what we want it to do. Now, I have gone to the privacy tools, and I have seen the workflow that has been automatically pre-built by HubSpot, and is automatically or by default off. I will edit it and make any adjustments if I wish to, but I do not wish to. The main purpose of this video is just to show you how a simple deployment works from the sandbox to the production environment. So if I want to turn it on, I will just go and toggle the button on, and then apply rule sets. Right? Apply rule sets if there is rule sets. Rule sets are a group of rules that control how data should behave in HubSpot. These help ensure users enter the correct information and prevent bad data from entering the system. So instead of letting users type anything, rule sets enforce standards. Example, a rule might say if country is equals Nigeria and state field must be completed. If the user tries to save without testing, or try to say without entering the state, HubSpot is going to stop them. Now, why are rule sets important? In CRMs, data quality is everything. Without control, users are entering the wrong values, fields remain empty, reports become inaccurate, and automation fails. So rule sets solve this by enforcing data discipline. I this workflow on because I have just used it as an example of showing you how a deployment works from a sandbox to a production environment in HubSpot. The need for this video is for you to know that the manual migration method has been eliminated entirely from Sandbox in HubSpot to production environment. Initially, we used to struggle. I can remember days that we sit and work throughout the day, and at night, because this needs to go live, a project needs to go live, we are going to manually imagine how you manually recreate everything step by step, do the positive and negative testing. In fact, there are a lot of workflows you need to turn off before you test so that things do not get messed up in the production. And most times we try to do it at non-business hours. You can imagine you working outside your business hour just because you do not want to mess things up, or you need to migrate something that needs to go live. Setup deploy is that component you need to work with. You need to watch this video and deploy that component right away. Thank you, and thank you for sticking to this channel. Please come back for more videos. Feel free to ask me your questions.